Hey everybody, my name is Cody Sherblum. I'm an engineer at John Deere Des Moines Works, and today I'm going to talk a little bit about what my job is and mechanical engineering. So, just a little bit of intro about me, my work history with John Deere. When I first started, I was a current product design engineer working on hay and forage equipment. And for the last 3 years or so, I've been a new product design engineer working on sprayers here in Des Moines. And I recently actually just changed positions over to a test engineer. So all of these fall into kind of the basket of mechanical engineering. So what is mechanical engineering? First off, there are four basic branches of engineering. You've got chemical, civil, electrical, and mechanical. And there's all kinds of engineering that you could put into any of those four baskets. So for mechanical engineering, you're using math, science, and problem solving to design, analyze, and manufacture pretty much anything. It could be from a blender all the way up to a space shuttle. It's a very versatile and broad field. And like I said, there's a lot of sub disciplines and focus areas. You know, people who focus on making gears, people who focus on hydraulic systems, people who focus on airplanes. So there's all kinds of things that can fall into mechanical engineering. And so that's why almost everything that you will interact with on a daily basis, at some point in its design life, there was a mechanical engineer who helped design it. So at John Deere, we are a company that makes heavy off-road equipment. And it kind of falls into three basic categories of agriculture. So, you got your tractors, your combines, your sprayers. There's construction and forestry equipment, bulldozers and excavators and equipment they use for forestry. And then residential, commercial, and golf. So that's some of your smaller tractors, lawn mowers, and golf equipment. Some of the things that we do in our industry, we don't just manufacture this equipment. We do a lot of the innovations that are going on, especially in agriculture. So some of the pictures I've shown here, we have our sprayer that as you go around a corner, it knows to spray more on the outside than on the inside. Kind of as a turn compensation. We have self-driving vehicles that use satellites to make tractors and combines and construction equipment drive by themselves. And other kinds of, the thing I have up here is what's called a Exact-Emerge planter equipment that we take individual seeds, and rather than just having them fall onto the ground, place them individually, and it makes sure that the crop is spaced correctly. So this is some of the things that are already on the market that John Deere is doing, not just in a factory building equipment. Some of the things that are coming down the pipe are technologies of the future, self-driving vehicles that don't have a human operator. So you have a tractor that doesn't even have somewhere for someone to sit. You have a sprayer that can drive itself through the field. And then also you have technologies that deal with a sprayer that can identify individual weeds in a field, and it will spray just exactly that instead of having to broadcast in your field. So there's a lot of different things that John Deere does. My current role at John Deere is a test engineer. So what I do is I create and oversee tests that measure all kinds of things on the machines and how they perform. And it can be anything from a specific part on a machine to see how it works, how a system like the engine or the air conditioning or the tire works, and all the way up to the entire machine. And so the reason we do this verification and validation is to ensure that the machine does what we say it does, and also to make sure that the machine meets standards that are set both by the company when we start off to make the machine, as well as industry standards that govern certain things about how the machine has to work, how safe it has to be, and things like that. On a daily basis, I'm basically the communicating between the design engineering team, marketing, who's actually going out and working with the customers and trying to sell the machine, product safety and compliance, and making sure that the machines are designed and work the way they're supposed to, as well as the experimental technicians, who are the guys in the shop who work with me when we're running the tests. So just kind of a brief few things that I work on. So right here is a carbon fiber sprayer boom. John Deere first started making sprayer booms for out of carbon fiber a couple of years ago, and so we run tests to make sure that this machine works the way it say it does. The boom isn't going to break when you're going through the field, or also to see how hard you can push your machine and make sure that it'll actually work. So this is just a couple basic pictures of that. And some of the things that aren't in a lab, you actually take the machine out into the field and you're doing tests on that. So right here, we're driving the sprayer into a post to make sure that it folds away like it's supposed to, and it's not going to shatter when you're driving through the field. One of the cool things that I get to do is run those tests, come up with how they're supposed to be run, and get to go out into the field. So because John Deere is a global company and we sell equipment all over the world, we have to test our equipment in different environments and different situations. So, a farmer who lives in Iowa has to drive their equipment in different conditions than someone who lives in California. And that's different from someone who lives in Arizona or Canada or Australia. So I've been able to run my tests and get to go to different parts of the world and see how that machine will work in different environments. The picture up there in the top is me when I was driving a sprayer in Australia, and there's kangaroos in the field next to me. This is kind of as a basic overview of what test engineering does. So that picture up at the top is instrumentation, and that's how you hook up accelerometers and strain gauges and different kinds of equipment that are measuring what's going on in the machine. And you hook your equipment up to that, hook it up to a computer, and you gather all of this data. And when that data comes out, you have to formulate it into something that is able to be understood by a wide variety of people, because they want to know, how is that machine working? How is that machine performing? Is it doing what we say it does? Is it doing what it's supposed to do? So after all of those tests are run, I come back and come up with a report and say, this is how the machine performed, and yes, it did work, or no, it didn't work, and these are things that we can do if it didn't work to fix that and move forward. So like I said, my current role is a test engineer, but in previous jobs with John Deere, I was a design engineer, which again is still under the whole blanket of mechanical engineering. So as a current product engineer, your job is basically to take what we already make and find ways to make it better, whether that's less expensive to produce, or live longer, or just work better. So a picture here is on a machine called a windrower, taking a heavy metal part and turning it into something that has rubber curtains. And so the picture along the bottom here is just kind of the prototype phases of having a physical build of the current product, mocking it up in a CAD software, and then actually taking a prototype out into the field and running it. That's one of my favorite things to do in this job, is have something go from nothing to something that's only exists on a computer to having a real world example that you can test and make sure that it works. A lot of that work is done with computer drafting. So the program that we use at John Deere is PTC Creo Parametric. There's all kinds of things you can do, and it's a tool that we use to design machines up front and know that our design is going to work before we have to go and make it. We can do all this testing before that machine is even made, and it's a good way to work through the design process without having to make a bunch of physical parts. When I was working with new product design with our carbon fiber sprayer booms, testing to see what the impact strength of those would be. So depending on how thick your layers are in your carbon fiber boom, it's a lot less expensive to do testing on the computer than it is to go out and break apart. So there's all kinds of things that you can do with mechanical engineering. Some of the things that I really like and some of the things that are hard about my job, continuous learning. So I went to college for 4 years. I went back and got a master's degree, which took another 2.5 years. And I still have to learn something new every single day. And that's something that I really love about my job, is that, I have to, when I get assigned a test, I have to do all of this research to understand what am I actually trying to test here? What are the standards that this machine has to meet, and that kind of thing. The variety of work that I do on a daily basis. I could be sitting at my desk at the office. I could be out in the experimental shop. I could be in the instrumentation lab gathering data from test samples. I could be out on the factory floor, or I could be out in the field running machines and gathering data. So just the location of what I do, but also the variety. The different things I get to design, the different things I get to test, it's pretty much different day to day and week to week. Problem solving. I love coming up with a solution to a problem, whether that's that, hey, we need to make this machine work better, or we have this a thing that a farmer or a construction worker or a homeowner needs to solve, and we don't have anything that works with it right now, so we need to come up with something brand new. Driving and operating machinery. Those pieces of equipment are really fun to drive. It's fun to be able to operate and use something that you spent all of this time working on and designing and seeing it come to fruition in the physical world. And it's fun to drive that. I grew up driving farm equipment, driving construction equipment, and so now I get to do it as part of my job. Prototyping, and then the final production assembly. So that's, like I said, taking something from nothing to a computer model to a physical, a test or a prototype, and then to a final assembly. Teamwork and collaboration. I work with all kinds of different people, and you have to be able to work with different kinds of people if you're going to be a successful engineer. That's working with the test team itself. There's a whole bunch of different people who are specialized in different areas. That's working with marketing and accounting to make sure that the money that you're spending is going well. And the field technicians, and there's all kinds of people that I work with on a daily basis. And I like being able to see everyone's opinions and what they want to see out of a project. So some of the challenges, the long project time horizons. And what that means is that some of the things that I work on from start to finish could be 3 or 4 years. So sometimes it's challenging to be able to measure how far you are progressing on a project when the progress day to day is hard to measure. And that's true with mechanical engineering and all kinds of other engineering fields, is that some of these projects a long time to go from start to end. So a lot of people struggle with not being able to see that tangible progress every day. The project management and funding. As engineers, we want to design the coolest things and make them work as well as they can, but there's real world constraints. We can't design something that no one's going to buy, and we can't design something that's too expensive for our company to pay for, to do all the research and development on. So there's always a struggle to find, well, we need to make it work, but we need to make it work and still be cost effective. And then weather and seasons. We design farm equipment and construction equipment, you only can use that machine at certain parts of the year. You use a planter in the spring and you use a combine in the fall. And so that you can only do certain tests at a certain point of the year. And you can only do certain tests when the weather's nice outside. That's another reason why we have to do all this testing all over the world, is because, if it's January here and it's snow, there's other parts of the world where it's nice and warm, so we can do testing there. So those are just some of the challenges that we have to do. So education, what does it take to be a mechanical engineer? I went to Iowa State University. I graduated in 2014 with my bachelor's degree in agricultural engineering. And then I came back in 2017 and started my master's degree in mechanical engineering. While I was in college, I was involved with the football team. I was the ASAB, which is American Society of Agricultural and Biological Engineers. So it's a professional organization that kind of organizes engineering students and works with them to get them in touch with professionals, people who work within the field. And then also with the Cyclone power pullers, where we design basically quarter scale or garden tractors, and we do tractor pulls with them. So that's my formal education after graduating from high school. How to prepare for engineering. So for high school students, one of just the basic fundamentals of engineering is understanding how things work. So, the stereotypical thing is that you took something apart just to see how it works. Make sure you know how to put it back together, and make sure that no one's going to be mad if it doesn't exactly work correctly when you put it back together. Job shadows and facility tours. When I was in middle school, when I did a tour, my high school guidance counselor got us set up to do job shadows and tours of the John Deere factory. And it was really cool to see how these things were made and how all of the design that went into these machines. Make sure that you excel in math and science. Engineering isn't all math and science, but it's very important, and I use it on a daily basis, whether it be figuring out different test procedures, seeing if the part that I'm designing is going to work like I say it will, and that kind of thing. Take advantage of college credits that are offered through your high school. They had just started doing that when I was in high school. I went to high school back in the dark ages of 2009, way long ago. But now there are so many community colleges and universities that offer college credit to high school students, and that gives you a good leg up on when you do get into college and can figure out how you're going to progress through your academic career. Summer programs. There's all kinds of universities and colleges that offer, engineering camps that you can go to for a week, and they give you kind of just a basic overview of things that you can do in engineering, and shows you, if you go to school here, then this is what you're going to do. Use all kinds of free online resources. One of my favorites actually is MIT OpenCourse. They have all kinds of lectures that they record and put on the internet for you to watch, and it's the same exact thing that they're teaching in class. So, if you're not really sure about, well, what am I going to study, what am I going to do, that's a really good thing to look at. For all engineering, I would suggest trying to at least have experience with computer-aided drafting software, or CAD software. And there's all kinds of free CAD softwares available for you to use. The one that I use is outside of work is SketchUp. But like I said, there's all kinds of them. And don't forget to take shop classes. Some of the best engineers that I know are the guys who know how to weld, are the guys who know how to wire an electrical outlet, the guys who know how to do all of these things that you can learn how to do with your high school shop classes. Hopefully your high school still has And if not, then you can take those with your community college and stuff like that. Once you get into college, ways to prepare. Do your extracurricular activities and student groups, kind of like the ASAB and the Power Pullers, maybe even football. It just gets you involved, and it builds that teamwork and collaboration that you're going to have when you get into the professional environment. Try to get as many internships, co-ops, and part-time employment as you can. Employers want to be able to see that you can be a good employee, and they offer all these different programs for you to work with them while you're still in college. And the way to get set up with those is to go to the career fair. Now, career fairs can be intimidating. There's a lot of people there, but it gets you used to being uncomfortable and going up and talking to people and trying to get set up with your future, basically. And look at some of the research and teaching assistant positions that they have available on campus, because that gets you used to having to do all of this research and making sure that when you go and work on a project, you're able to understand all of the things that are going on with this project. And it's just a good example and things that will help you along in your engineering career. That was a really quick overview of what you do in mechanical engineering, some of the things that I've experienced in mechanical engineering and at John Deere. So, thanks for listening. And if you have any other questions, there's all kinds of resources that you can look at for researching mechanics.